Some say a woman alone is a woman unfinished, but I say she is a storm in stillness, a symphony without a conductor, a garden that waters itself. Stay with me, and you will see why the world has misunderstood solitude, and why a woman who stands alone often stands the tallest. Alone is not empty, it is whole. To sit in silence with yourself is not a punishment, it is a privilege. A woman who learns to be alone is a woman who learns to hear her own voice above the noise of the world. And what a voice it is, deep, rooted, echoing with the wisdom of every step she's taken, every wound she's healed, every dream she dared to carry. We've been told stories again and again that being alone is something to be fixed, as if it's a crack in the mirror of womanhood, as if a woman's value begins only when someone else notices her. But that story was not written by women who had met themselves in the dark. That story was not told by women who have built their homes on the foundations of their own spirit. Those tales come from fear, and fear is loud, but it is not wise. Solitude is not a space of lack, it is a space of becoming. The world rushes, demands, presses in with the urgency to fill every quiet moment with distraction, with approval, with validation. But when a woman steps back, when she dares to take up space by herself, she touches something sacred. She learns that peace is not found in the arms of another, but in the strength of standing tall with no one else to lean on. That kind of standing changes the shape of your soul. When a woman walks alone, she is not walking toward someone. She is walking toward herself. She begins to remember the things she once forgot, the sound of her own laughter without an audience, the rhythm of her days on her own terms, the comfort of making decisions without asking for permission. In the stillness of her life, she doesn't shrink. She expands. She listens to her body, learns the corners of her mind, and reclaims the parts of her that were once handed away too freely. This kind of aloneness is not loneliness. It is presence. It is standing in the center of your life without apology, without pretending, without waiting for someone else to complete the picture. You see, the idea that being single is some sort of waiting room is one of the oldest and most dangerous lies. It tells women that the life they live on their own is a placeholder, a rough draft, a pause. But this moment, this chapter, this journey, it is the masterpiece. It is not the rehearsal. You are not in limbo. You are not less. Some of the most powerful things grow in solitude. Trees that stand alone stretch higher to catch the light. They learn to bend with the storm and root deeper into the earth. No one waters them, no one shelters them, and yet they flourish. So does the woman who embraces her singleness, not as a sentence, but as a sanctuary. She becomes fluent in her own language. She discovers that joy found in quiet is deeper, that her peace is not borrowed from anyone else's presence. And when love finally comes to visit her, it will not be to rescue her, it will be to walk beside her. Because here is the truth. No relationship will ever be as long, as intimate, or as defining as the one you have with yourself. So what if this long season of being single is not a drought, but a divine preparation? What if it is not an emptiness, but a harvest? There is power in sitting at your own table, in choosing your own company, in looking in the mirror and not asking, what is missing, but saying, look how far I've come. That kind of recognition can't be gifted by another person. It must be grown from within. And yes, there will be days when it feels hard, when the world leans in with questions or assumptions, when someone looks at you with pity as if you are lacking. Let them look, let them wonder, because you know what they do not. You are not half, you are whole, you are not undone, you are in progress. And every step you take alone is a testament to the courage it takes to live truthfully. A woman alone is not a story paused. She is a story rising. She is thunder wrapped in grace. She is stillness laced with fire. She does not wait for life to begin. She breathes deeply, walks boldly, and knows this one sacred truth: to be alone is not to be less, it is to be enough, fully, fiercely, unshakably. Alone is not empty, it is whole. There is a quiet power in choosing yourself, a bold, unwavering strength in deciding not to settle. When a woman refuses to shrink her soul to fit a relationship that cannot hold her spirit, she is not being difficult, she is being deliberate. She is not lost or picky or hard to please. She is simply unwilling to hand her heart to something that does not feel like home. To choose rather than settle is an act of self-respect. It is standing in the fullness of who you are and saying, I will not trade peace for company. I will not trade dignity for approval. I will not shapeshift for someone else's comfort. That choice is not always easy. It is often made in the quiet corners of life, behind closed doors, in moments when loneliness whispers tempting words in the dark. But every time that choice is made, it builds something unshakable within, a deep-rooted knowing. The world is quick to applaud women for being accommodating, quick to call them strong for enduring what they do not deserve. But what if real strength is not in staying, not in sacrificing endlessly, not in folding ourselves in half to be held? What if real strength lies in walking away, in holding out, in refusing to settle for something that doesn't see us clearly or love us fully? Choosing means waiting, not in the passive sense, but in the active one. It is not about sitting still. It is about becoming while you wait, about building your life so beautifully that when love arrives, it must be extraordinary to even be considered. It must honor the life you've crafted, the standards you've kept, the boundaries you've built. Settling is easy. It wears the disguise of companionship and whispers lies dressed as comfort. It tells you this is good enough. You should be grateful. At least you're not alone. But settling always asks you to shrink in some way. It asks you to silence a part of yourself, to dim your light so someone else can shine a little brighter beside you. But a woman who chooses instead of settling knows that solitude is not the enemy. Compromise of self is. She understands that a life built alone in truth is far more sacred than a life shared in pretense. And so she waits, not for perfect, but for real. Not for a savior, but for a companion who arrives not to complete her, but to join her. To choose rather than settle is not about demanding flawlessness in others. It is about recognizing your worth so deeply that you cannot pretend to feel whole in anything that makes you feel small. It's about being able to sit across from someone and ask, can you meet me here? In honesty, in respect, in effort. And if the answer is no, being brave enough to walk away. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Many have found themselves lonelier in a relationship that required them to abandon themselves than they ever were in their own quiet company. A woman who chooses knows that peace is precious and that nothing is worth disturbing it, not even the illusion of love. She doesn't need someone to choose her first. She chooses herself first, not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of reverence for the life she's worked so hard to build. Every boundary she sets is a reminder that she will not lower the bar just to feel desired. She would rather stand alone in truth than sleep beside someone who cannot speak her language. And yes, there will be moments of doubt. Moments where it feels easier to say yes to the almosts, the maybes, the good enoughs. But she remembers, a temporary warmth is not worth a permanent regret. She knows her love is not common, and so it should not be easily given. Her time is not cheap, and so it should not be wasted. The power of choosing is not just in the final decision, it's in every small one made along the way. It's in the texts not answered, the doors not reopened, the tears cried in private instead of performing strength for others. It's in the quiet mornings where she brews her own coffee, eats at her own table, and smiles, not because someone else is watching, but because she likes the person she sees. She is not waiting to be chosen. She is living fully and wildly until something extraordinary rises to meet her. And if it never does, she will still have chosen a life of depth, of meaning, of freedom. Because a woman who does not settle has already won. She has chosen herself, and that is the most radical, most beautiful kind of love there is. There is a quiet voice that follows women through the years, a whisper, persistent and subtle. It begins early, tucked inside bedtime stories and well-meaning compliments. It says, be gentle, be small, be agreeable. It says, you are enough when someone else says so. It is the voice of society, and it teaches women to seek approval before they seek purpose. It teaches them to shrink before they shine. But inside every woman, there is another voice, older, stronger, buried under years of conditioning. It is not a whisper, it is a roar. Society whispers in the classroom when the loud girl is told to be quiet. It whispers at the dinner table when the ambitious woman is asked when she'll settle down. It whispers in the workplace when she's passed over for being too emotional or not quite the right fit. It whispers when she's single past a certain age, as if her worth can be measured by someone else's ring or last name. These whispers are not accidental. They are crafted, repeated, and passed down like heirlooms. But that doesn't make them truth. The whisper is cautious, fearful, rooted in control. It does not want women to roar because roaring women disrupt things. They build things, change things, burn down the false ideas handed to them, and plant something wild and real in its place. The whisper fears the woman who knows her own mind, who speaks her truth without apology. It fears the woman who walks alone and isn't asking to be rescued. It fears the woman who defines her life in her own language. But the roar, it is not afraid. The roar rises when a woman stops asking for permission. It thunders when she speaks her name like it's a declaration, when she walks into a room like she belongs there, not because someone said so, but because she believes it. The roar is not always loud in sound. Sometimes it is silent strength, a refusal to fold. Sometimes it is in the leaving, in the saying no, in the not returning to a place that demanded her silence. The roar is resistance. The roar is reclamation. Society whispers, you are only as worthy as your desirability, but a woman's roar answers, I am more than beautiful. I am brilliant, boundless, and burning with purpose. Society whispers, tone it down, and the roar says, no, I was not made to be manageable. Society whispers, a woman should be chosen, but the roar says, I choose myself daily, fiercely, and without regret. This roar does not come easily. It is earned through years of swallowing words, of being told to smile when you wanted to scream. It is carved from moments when you stood your ground and were called difficult. It is shaped by the nights you cried in private, because being strong is often lonely. But each of those moments taught you that your voice, your real voice, is sacred. It is not something to be silenced. It is something to be celebrated. The woman who roars has heard the whispers all her life. She knows them well, but she no longer believes them. She has replaced them with truths that ring louder, that her body is her own, her time is her own, her joy is her own. She does not live to soften herself for others. She lives to be whole. She does not belong to the world's expectations. She belongs to herself. And when she roars, she does not roar alone. Every woman who stands in her truth sends tremors through generations. She reminds other women, those still wrapped in the whisper, that they too can rise. She reminds them that their strength is not too much, that their emotions are not a weakness, that their solitude is not shame. She becomes a lighthouse for others who are still trying to find their way through the fog of expectation. The world may never stop whispering, but that doesn't matter anymore, because the roar is louder now. It's in the way she walks into a room without explaining herself. It's in the way she loves, with boundaries and bravery. It's in the way she dreams out loud, without shrinking. And it's in the way she refuses to live a life that fits someone else's mold. Her roar is not about aggression, it is about truth. It is about liberation. It is the sound of a woman remembering who she is, who she has always been underneath the layers of expectation and politeness. It is the sound of a woman who no longer waits for validation because she knows she is already enough. And once she finds that voice, once she dares to speak in it, to live in it, to sing in it, there is no going back. Society may keep whispering, but the woman who roars has already outgrown the silence. There comes a moment in a woman's life when she must decide what she wants to be remembered for, not what the world calls her, not the roles she's been told to play, but the echo she leaves behind when she is no longer in the room. This moment is quiet. It doesn't come with applause or approval. It comes when she's tired of shrinking into labels that never quite fit, tired of explaining herself to people who only see the surface. It comes when she realizes that legacy is far more powerful than any name someone else gives her. Labels are quick and easy. Society loves to use them. Single, married, divorced, mother, wife, career woman, too much, not enough. These words are handed to women like name tags stuck to their skin before they've even had a chance to introduce themselves. Labels make the world feel more comfortable, more orderly, but labels don't tell the whole story. They don't speak of the night spent building something from nothing, of the quiet strength it takes to keep showing up. Labels don't capture the fire in a woman's heart or the depth of her dreams. Legacy, however, is different. Legacy is not handed to you, you build it. Every choice you make, every truth you speak, every time you rise after falling, these are the bricks in the house of your legacy. It is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about living a life so honest, so intentional, that your impact lingers long after your name is spoken. A woman's legacy is not defined by her relationship status. It is not limited to whether she had children or a partner. These may be parts of her story, but they are not the sum of her worth. Too often, women are measured by proximity to others, whose wife, whose mother, whose daughter they are, rather than by the fullness of who they are on their own. But the woman who chooses to live for legacy rewrites that narrative. She understands that her life's value lies in her courage, her compassion, her contribution. She is not here to be defined by who claims her, but by what she creates. There are women whose names history doesn't remember, but whose legacies live on through the people they uplifted, the barriers they broke, the lives they touched. These women may not have been celebrated in their time. They may have been misunderstood, labeled too independent, too outspoken, too different, but they carried something sacred, a sense of purpose that could not be silenced. To live for legacy means choosing depth over appearance. It means saying no to the things that diminish your spirit, even when it's easier to say yes. It means speaking truth in rooms that prefer silence. It means showing up for yourself, even when no one else claps. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like failure to those on the outside, but inside it feels like freedom. It feels like alignment. It feels like you are finally living your own life instead of performing someone else's version of it. The woman who lives for legacy knows she may be judged. She may be called names, questioned, underestimated, but she moves forward anyway. She understands that legacy is a long game, That true impact is not measured by momentary applause, but by enduring influence. She is planting seeds she may never see bloom, but she plants them with care, with hope, with faith in what they will become. And she is not bitter. She does not carry resentment for those who don't understand her. She simply walks with clarity. She knows that living small to fit a label will never satisfy her soul. She knows that labels fade, but legacy remains. What people call her now will not matter as much as how people feel when they remember her. Did she love well? Did she stand tall? Did she light the way for someone else to walk more freely? Legacy is not a destination. It's a way of being. It's in how you hold the door open for others, even as you're building your own path. It's in how you tell your story, even the hard parts, so someone else feels less alone. It's in how you forgive, how you grow, how you refuse to be bitter in a world that often gives you reasons to be. It's in the quiet strength you show when you choose integrity over popularity, truth over convenience. The woman who lives for legacy is not interested in being liked if it means being less of herself. She's interested in being known, really known, for who she is at her core. She is not building a life to fit into a mold. She is building a life that breaks the mold. And that is how she will be remembered, not for what the world called her, but for the woman she chose to become. There is a certain grace in learning to sit with yourself, not out of necessity, but out of choice. The world often teaches us to avoid our own company, to fill the silence, to reach for someone else the moment solitude arrives. But there is a quiet beauty in choosing yourself, in becoming your own companion, in discovering that you are not waiting to be found, you are already here. Self-companionship is not just being alone. It's not the absence of others. It is the presence of you. It's the art of turning inward with tenderness instead of judgment, of seeing yourself not as a project to fix, but as a person to befriend. Many go through life surrounded by people yet remain strangers to themselves. They fear silence because in that silence the truth speaks. But the woman who learns self-companionship begins to understand that peace is not something you stumble into. It's something you cultivate moment by moment, breath by breath. To be your own companion is to ask yourself how you are and truly listen. Not to fix, not to dismiss, but to hold space. It means walking through your own emotions like a friend would, without shame, without the need to hide. It is showing up for your sadness without trying to bury it, celebrating your joy without waiting for someone else to confirm it. It's learning that your voice matters, even when no one else is around to hear it. This kind of relationship with the self doesn't arrive all at once. It's a practice. It's the small things, making your own morning sacred, cooking a meal with care, taking a walk just because the air feels good. It's speaking kindly to yourself when you make a mistake. It's sitting with your fear and whispering, "I'm not going anywhere." It's rewriting the story that says you're only valuable when you are needed, wanted, or loved by someone else. The woman who cultivates self-companionship becomes rooted. She does not drift in the wind of others' opinions because she knows her own heart. She does not chase people who cannot meet her where she is because she has already met herself. Her standards are not walls. They are the reflection of her self-respect. She is not cold. She is whole. In a world that moves fast and praises busyness, self-companionship teaches stillness. It allows you to pause and notice your own life, to witness yourself as you are, without performance. And in that stillness, clarity grows. You begin to see which parts of your life align with your truth and which ones you've outgrown. You learn that not everything that calls to you deserves an answer, that not every door that opens needs to be walked through, because when you know yourself, you stop mistaking distraction for connection. Many fear solitude because it reflects back the places within that feel empty. But self-companionship does not fear those places. It meets them. It asks, "What do you need?" And then, with gentle hands, begins to offer it. You learn to hold your own hand through grief, to cheer yourself on when no one is watching, to celebrate the fact that you are here, still becoming, still trying. And in time, the silence you once ran from becomes a sanctuary. You begin to crave your own presence. You realize that your laughter is just as beautiful when no one hears it, that your tears are valid even when no one comforts you, that your thoughts are worth hearing even if only by you. You are no longer lonely with yourself, you are safe. This is not about building walls to keep others out. It's about building a home within that others are welcome to enter, but not entitled to own. It's about knowing that love from others is a gift, not a necessity. That being chosen by someone else is not more important than choosing yourself every day. A woman who is her own companion walks differently. She does not beg for love. She invites it. She does not perform. She simply lives. Her strength is not loud, but it is undeniable. It is the kind of strength that comes from knowing that no matter what changes around her, she is anchored within. Self-companionship is an art because it takes patience, attention, and grace. It is not always easy. There will be days when the silence feels heavy, when the doubts creep in. But even then, you stay. Even then, you offer yourself kindness instead of critique. And that commitment over time becomes a foundation. To walk through life with yourself as your closest companion is not a second choice. It is a sacred one. It is the beginning of every other love that follows. Because the woman who is at home with herself does not settle for less than soul, less than truth, less than respect. She knows that the most important relationship she will ever have is the one she builds within. And she tends to it like a garden, quietly, daily, and with love. From the moment a girl can listen, the world begins to write her story for her. Fairy tales whisper it sweetly at bedtime, songs hum it into her ears, and movies paint it boldly on the screen. Love is the reward, the goal, the finish line. She is told to dream, yes, but to dream of someone. She is taught that her story is not complete until a hand reaches for hers. But one day, she looks in the mirror and sees something different, herself, whole, becoming. And she begins to unlearn the myth that love is the prize. Love, when it comes, can be beautiful, but it is not proof of worth. It is not the gold star at the end of a well-behaved life. It is not the destination of a woman's journey, nor is its absence a failure. A woman is not a story half written because no one has entered the plot beside her. Her chapters are rich, alive, layered with triumph and tenderness, even if no one else reads them aloud. This is a truth many women come to slowly. It is not easy to break away from a script that has been handed to you since you could speak. You begin to believe that love will save you, fix you, make everything make sense. You are praised for waiting for it, searching for it, centering it in your life. But when you stop and look around, you begin to wonder, what if I'm already enough? What if my life is not a waiting room, but a full, unfolding story of its own? A woman who sees love as a gift and not a prize walks with different posture. She no longer moves through life like she's auditioning for someone to pick her. She knows she is not waiting to be discovered. She has already found herself. She does not view love as a ladder she must climb to be seen, but as a bridge that must be built on mutual ground. When you stop treating love like the prize, everything changes. You stop measuring your happiness by someone else's arrival. You stop planning your life around an if or a when. You invest in your joy, your health, your dreams, not because it makes you more appealing, but because it makes you more you. You realize that the love you seek from someone else cannot be deeper than the love you offer yourself. The world might call you lonely for choosing solitude. It might call you picky for keeping your standards. It might say your time is running out, as if your life is a countdown to someone else's validation. But you know better. You know that peace is not a placeholder, that your mornings are sacred whether or not they begin with someone else's breath beside you, that your achievements are not softened by your singleness, that your laughter still echoes fully in an empty room. And if love does come, real love, rooted love, love that honors rather than completes, it will find you already whole. It will be drawn not to your need, but to your presence, not to your longing, but to your light. It will come as a companion, not a rescuer. It will meet you where you already are, alive, self-aware, standing strong. To live this way requires courage, because it means letting go of the need to be chosen. It means choosing yourself first, not as an act of defiance, but as an act of reverence. It means building a life so rich, so textured, that love becomes an addition, not a repair. It means refusing to hand the pen of your story to someone else. Love may come, and when it does, it will not be the prize, it will be the celebration. A joyful, unexpected chapter in a book that never needed saving. A fire that burns brighter, not because you lacked heat before, but because two flames chose to dance. But if it does not come, your story is still full, still worth telling, still a masterpiece. The woman who knows this walks into the world without apology. She smiles without wondering who's watching. She speaks with the kind of clarity that comes from listening to her own voice first. She is not bitter. She is not waiting. She is simply living, and in doing so, she becomes the kind of woman who reminds the world love is a part of life, not the point of it, because she knows what many forget: she was never the prize to be won. Her life, in all its wild and quiet beauty, was always the gift. And she gives it not in desperation, not in halves, but in fullness, if and only if it is received with the reverence it deserves. So to the woman who lies awake at night wondering if she is too much or not enough, hear this: you are exactly right. Your singleness is not a silence, it is a song, not an absence, but an anthem. Walk tall, love deep, and let no one convince you that a crown must be shared to be worn. For a woman who embraces herself fully, fiercely, and without apology is never alone. She is sovereign.